Whatever. Hello, everyone, and welcome to post-match reaction to Leinster versus Toulouse. It finished 30-12, and to be honest, we kind of knew what the result was going to be from a fair way out, in all honesty, because Leinster really did a job today. Now, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion, and also the best place to say hello to Veronique. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. And yourself? What's the time over there?
So it's now 4:15 in the morning.
Oh, God. You are bad.
So yes, cups of tea have kept me going, but we'll battle through. Just before we came on air, you were talking that going into this game, there were a few surprise selections for Toulouse, especially around that 9-10 combination.
That's correct. Yeah, something that hasn't been done. They took a gamble during an interview that Sons had with BT Sport. He did mention that they had a secret potion in place, but unfortunately it backed off. But they knew exactly. They took a risk, and lesson learned for the past. They knew that Leinster, because they're the top of the game in Europe, they would have been very difficult to beat. So they came up with a different strategy. But still, however, they did win against them, surprisingly, in the Stade Ernest Vallon in October, which was a massive surprise. I think it was 28-27 in the last minute, So it could have been done, but not this time, unfortunately.
Not this time. And it is, as you say, it was a surprise when they won last night. This is a young French side with obviously with a splattering of veterans from overseas to give them experience, but yeah, you say it is the decision making axis of this team is young, and what we're kind of expecting to see as being the key decision making axis for France going forwards. But during the first 4 minutes, they look lively. They try to play out their own 22 before box kicking. We had Colby looking very lively,
Yes.
coming into the field, looking for the ball,
Yes.
ball a lot, and that all led to a penalty. And things were looking good for that first sort of 5 or 6 minutes.
I completely agree with you. They did show a flash of brilliance, in the first. I would even say more than 6 minutes. I would say first 10 minutes, because I was counting. I was keeping it very close, in my opinion, anyway. Maybe I'm more optimistic than you. Started really well, and then went downhill, I'm afraid, from that start. As soon as the magical boots of Sexton, hit that ball, and it's Easter, that, yes, and pear-shaped. Plus, also, they made, from discipline point of view, they were lacking of discipline. They made some silly mistake. There was that yellow that was awarded to, to the Scottish player. I forgot his
Richard
name.
Gray, yep.
Exactly, that was a terrible things to do, and yes.
But as you mentioned in there, Sexton's boot, kicking from the boot, I think he put one out on the full, but apart from that, he found grass today. From the tee, he was perfect, and yeah, he exploited where the space was, and I think kicking was a big thing between these two teams. Again, another one of the question marks around Toulouse. A lot of their kicks stayed in play rather than going out, allowing players like James Lowe, I've gone blank. It's the fullback's name, not Kirby. Anyway, something like that, to run the ball back and to counter-attack, which is a questionable decision against that kind of back three.
Mm-hmm, that's correct. I agree with you. Yes.
So some of the decision making from Toulouse was perhaps questionable around that. They survived. Obviously there was the first try. Or sorry, the second. So that first try was James Lowe in the corner.
Yes.
We then had Richie Gray getting in yellow, which allowed basically Leinster to back up score on score with the line out maul, and that's something that Toulouse weren't able to ever do. Their exiting was poor, so they could never put two scores back to back, could they?
Yes, I have to say, from an attacking point of view, Leinster was very, very much going for it. If you know what I mean. They tried. Toulouse did try to defend, but they always found a hole somewhere, and yeah.
Yeah. I think the difference, was that Leinster line was always connected. There were very few gaps. Whereas the Toulouse line, someone the commentators mentioned was, they like to they allow players to rush up and put pressure on. But that also, if you don't get the player and don't get the ball, that leaves gaps. And Leinster were able to take advantage of those today. I guess we always talk about, so the French emotion and things, but when the tea was brought on in 31 minutes, we saw a bit of dissent from some of the players going, actually no, we wanted to go for the try. Also, again in that second half, I think around the 43rd minute, again we saw some dissent saw some players getting upset and annoyed that they were going for three rather than going for the corner. Were all the team on the same page?
That's a very, very good point, because I had a feeling there was a lack of connection between some of the players, between the strategy. Maybe there were some experienced players such as Keno, the grandfather, is 36 years old now, and the very young one. So I think they still need to work on the dynamic of the team, and maybe they did say, as I said, I read in L'Equipe, the interview with Sones, and he did say, they wanted to create kind of chaos. So I'm not so sure, very French. So I'm not so sure whether they are really a real structured plan, or maybe they had one, but it didn't pan out. So no, I spotted that as well. There didn't seem to be any clear idea of which way to go forward.
Yep. We saw some of that in the second half. They got the first score. They got the first score in both halves. You got to say that's normally considered something to bounce to sort of build on. But again, they couldn't exit very well, and Fardy eventually went over for a try. And at that point, I say on 52 minutes, I think at 24-9, that's the point where I went, this is probably over now. It's a step too far to come back from.
It was, I felt the same.
So the pressure was on. Maybe it was the 59-minute when they got put over their final score, and we had a couple of tries then as Toulouse struggled to exit. We also, it was a 30-12, but also we had the disallowed try. Correctly disallowed try, to be fair. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have it could have been more. Whilst they stopped hemorrhaging points in the just before half time, they didn't actually get on top of Leinster after that first 10-minute period for any sustained pressure, and that was enough to see Leinster home.
Yes.
Do you agree with Johnny Sexton as man of the match, or were there other players that stood up for you?
Did you say Johnny Sexton?
Did you agree with him as being man of the match?
Yes, because in my opinion, unfortunately, Sexton is somebody who really hurt the French people, especially with the last one game he played during the Six Nations, where his final kick, made us lose. But because to be honest with you, I was a bit disappointed by number 11. I was expecting some speed. The French number 11. I forgot his name. Schenkel.
Justin Colby.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I was expecting a little bit more move. I saw him once or twice. Maybe there was not enough collaboration, within the team. People didn't really know how to behave. And Dupont is is a rising star in the French rugby, and obviously has been selected a few times by Brunel. He was spotted by Lancaster as well when he was playing in Castres, and he was saying, "What the hell? What is he doing there? He should be playing for France." So he's a very, very talented, but changing of place maybe wasn't the best move. Maybe they had too much wine to drink when they work on strategy. Being French.
There was a suggestion that from the comment that Ntamak had heavy strapping on his leg and had a bit of a dead leg. And that was possibly why he didn't start. But the stats, apart from, in that last, about sort of 10 minutes or so, Leinster did very well just to go through the phases, and wind the clock down. It wasn't that wind the clock down of literally of one out, where everyone knows what's going to happen, but it's just a matter of can you stop it and will they knock it on. They were more varied than that, but they looked after the ball and wound the clock down. But before that, a lot of the stats were 50-50. The only one that really stood out as being slightly was like 9 turnovers by Leinster for 12 by Toulouse. But even that doesn't suggest the score differential we saw. This was a game more of moments than and taking those moments really than not making those mistakes in the key moments that was the big difference here.
Yes, and I've got a question for you. What did you make? Because I was reading on Twitter as well. I was looking at what people were saying in terms of that try which was disallowed by Wayne Barnes. From Medar, because basically Sexton gave a high tackle, he produced a high tackle to one of the players, and Medar saw the ball rolling and took it and scored a try. Do you think it should have been a penalty try, or do you think when Barnes took the right call? Because it's debatable. I think he did follow the rules, but it's...
Well, I mean, he's there to enforce the laws as they're kind of as it's supposed to. There was the high tackle, but I mean there was someone else in the tackle at the same time. So would he have actually gone on and scored the try into that situation? I don't think he would have done, and it's got to be. Would it stop a probable try if he wasn't there? I don't think he was the last. From memory, I'm trying to thinking it back. I don't think he was the last defender. So I don't think that was. I don't think it was a penalty try from there. You could argue about yellow cards because it did feel like there were quite a few penalties in that sort of 5 metre area. That even though the penalty count was what was it now? Was 10 to Leinster and 11 to Toulouse. It felt that Leinster saved their penalties until it was in that last 5 metres. So there could be a question about that, but no, I don't think it was a penalty try.
Anyway, I think lesson learned for the Stade Toulousain squad. They were full of confidence, before that game.
Absolutely.
But I think they were kind of realistic because they did say they wanted to enjoy, so wanted to the guys, to enjoy the experience, but they wanted to obviously achieve a win, but maybe
absolutely. And looking at some of the Toulouse players, Richie Gray, as he's well known for doing, 21 tackles, non-missed. He got through a lot of work, as did I'm going to mispronounce the name. Sorry here, Elstad.
Yes.
Got through 18 tackles as well. Those two got through the majority of the defensive work. Interestingly enough, the Colby got through again 10 tackles. So there was definitely some work for the backs to do a little bit as well. On the carries, I mean Dupont 14 carries. Him and Elstead with 14 carries, the two people to have carried the ball the most. You don't really want your fly half being the guy running it up all the time.
Correct.
And so again, perhaps not the best one. A name I didn't hear much, but actually got the most meters for Toulouse was the outside centre Gutillon.
Right.
Which I'm a bit surprised because a name I didn't hear much, but seemed to have got through a bunch of work. Must have been quiet work in this one. We talked about the fact they kicked in field, so Kearney and Lowe, funnily enough, got a lot of run meters running it back. But James Ryan, 18 carries today. That's he got through a bunch of work as well.
Yes.
And defensively. He was second highest tackler with Conan. So those are the key kind of stats that that I saw, no one's particularly. I mean, obviously we had the 2 yellow cards, but no one gave up more than two penalties. So that was all pretty much there. So where does this leave Toulouse? Obviously concentrating on the top 14.
Absolutely, because right now they are just 8 points behind the top team, which is in in a French top
14.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So they've only since the 29th of September they've been playing really, really well in the French in the top 14. I think they only lost one game out of 14 so far. So that very much a renouveau is really a renewal is happening in Toulouse. Obviously Novez. Long gone.
Long gone, yes, now.
Long story, we won't go there. Otherwise we'll be there again tomorrow. And obviously, you got some older player who are back to Toulouse managing. You've got Son, you've got... and yes, it seems to be like there's a sense of revival. I mean, I saw Toulouse play against Saracen in 2016 under the old regime, and it was a different team. I think they were not as good as today. Leinster was, but I can see lots of massive improvement. Which is beneficial because they've been suffering. They haven't lifted a cup since 2010, the European Cup. Having said that, they are the team that won the most European Cup, I believe 4.
Yeah, the most, along with Leinster, both have won it four times each. In fact, one of the interesting things about these semi-finals is that those two have won it by 4. Then obviously Munster and Saracens won it twice each. You got 4 of the top 5 teams who've won for number of titles. So it really was your European dynasties who came to the fore this year. Toulon being the one that obviously missed out in that. But as you say, Toulouse 8 points clear of Clermont, 15 points clear of Lyon, which is kind of the important piece because they're pretty much guaranteed now home advantage in the playoffs through to the final for Toulouse in the top 14. So things, as you say, a revival for Toulouse, things looking good down south. For Leinster, having seen the two semi-finals, Leinster and Saracens, how do you see the matchup?
It's going to be a ball. Well, it's going to be extremely interesting. As you said, it's very much the European dynasty, meeting at the top of the game. And in terms also of the trainers, you got Mark McCall, he's been there, done that. He has proved great success, managing Saracen, not only on the English level, but also on the European level. Saracen won 3 times within the last 4 years. 2015, I beg your pardon, twice, 2016 and 2017.
Yep.
That's correct. One in Lyon and one in Edinburgh. I was there at both times, wearing my fez hat. And as you do, and then partying afterwards with the players at Edinburgh. They are ready for it. They're eager. They will be working very hard. The team is one of the closest knit team I ever seen. They train hard, they work hard, and they play hard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. After going from back-to-back winners to not making it last year, I think it's pretty clear that they have been focusing on the European Champions Cup this year, having not lost a game. The only team to have gone undefeated, whereas they've been happy to lose a couple domestically. They're still going to get a home semi-final, so that's all good for them. But it's going to be a contrast of style, isn't it? Because we saw a lot of box kicking yesterday, whereas today there was much more keeping the ball in hand and the kicking coming from Sexton rather than from 9. So a contrast of styles between the two of them next time for the final.
Definitely, yeah. Different. It was quite brutal yesterday, I have to say. Today was more a game of finesse between brackets because we're talking about rugby, I think. And no, it's going to be good. But in terms of the, also what we mustn't forget is that Stuart Lancaster obviously knows some of the players really, really well. Before the World Cup in 2015, he was the one who brought to life, between brackets, the Vunipola brothers, Owen Farrell, George Cruz, Jamie George. So he knows their psychology really, really well. For him, I think it's going to be an extremely important challenge in his professional career. The European Cup is basically his World Cup, and it's been working extremely hard. The guys in Leicester, call him, I think, Tuesday training. Tuesday training. He make them work very, very hard. And it's one thing that you will see in terms of physicalities between the French team and the English team, between top 14 and the English Premiership, is that they don't train as hard, for instance, in Toulon or in Racing, not as hard as English club. And I spotted that. I was wondering, that's the reason why Toulouse didn't do as well as Leicester. So you said maybe they're lacking a little bit of fitness. But that's a personal observation. But this was mentioned to me by a sport journalist as well in France, as well as put it.
Yeah, there's
players as well.
I think there's a feeling that in France they kind of use the money to buy the best players and then say, hey, let you play. Whereas across in the UK, both it's more of, well, we don't have quite as much money on the players, but we'll spend a lot. We because of salary caps and things, we'll spend the money on making sure we have all the best coaching for them. And I think, that focus on coaching hasn't necessarily been there for all the sides in France. And when you've got some of the sort of Southern Hemisphere coaches coming over, then it probably, but they've got to get past, or they've got to try and change a culture in a club, and that doesn't change overnight. That takes time to do that kind of thing. So, it's going to be a contrast of styles in that final, but it's going to be an absolute cracking game. So make sure you see that.
And to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm really hoping. I would love, Saracen to get the sweet, but it's going to be very tough. And I think they're aware of it. There will be lots of analysis done tomorrow in Harpenden, in their training center, in terms of their game plan. Definitely. But for next time.
Well, the focus of both those sides will turn back to domestic matters because they've got to finish off the regular season. I think it's just one more round for the Pro 14 and a couple of rounds for the Gallagher Premiership before they hit into their playoffs. And then once those are over, they'll come back to play the European Rugby Champions Cup final in Newcastle, from memory. So get that in your diaries. Don't miss it. And Veronique, where can people get your rugby musings? Where can they find you on social media and your website?
Oh, you can follow me at Veronique Lindieu. I've got a link of my ad hoc basis blog. Or you can see me, chatting with the at media press conferences, with the around the time of the Six Nations and so on. But I think, to be honest with you, rugby is very much on the move, and there is much more enthusiasm for it, and we're only scratching the surface. That's why I'm so enthusiastic. But not only, we're talking about the European Cup. I think, further afield, in the US, in Africa, other countries. So it's a very exciting time. Things are changing.
It's definitely a time of change at the moment because, the current financial models perhaps aren't as sustainable as people would like to think they are. We're obviously seeing the involvement of CVC and all sorts of other things, but that's not really. Those are all really different topics that we'll probably discuss, or would be great to discuss on another day. Thank you everyone who's been watching. You can, for those who watch the recording, up there is a link to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of these post-match reactions in future. Down there is a link to my Patreon where you can become a supporter of the channel so I can bring you all this free content. And over there, the artificial intelligence here at YouTube says they're videos that you'll enjoy. So why don't you give them a click and a watch?
Take care. Bye bye, Paul. Bye.
Like, oh.